Hello, and welcome to another episode of Mindset Monday. I hope you had a wonderful, spectacular weekend, and I hope today, Monday, was a wonderful day for you. I know for the most part, for most countries, the work week begins on a Monday. And one thing I remember years ago, they always talk about the Monday blues. But I look at every day as a new day, a new start, to start something new, to refresh on the things that we did not complete yesterday. So today has been a beautiful day for me. And I hope wherever you are, it may be night or early the next morning for you, but I hope you had a wonderful day. Today is Monday, April 14th, and we are in our series, Abundance in Service. Last week, we spoke about abundance in service, and the focus was on my mother in law, who went home to her reward 2 weeks ago. We're still planning her final service, but what she has left us is just remarkable. Today, we're going to be looking at abundance in service from a young lady and her team she has gone through different journeys of service, and where she is now, she will be sharing her journey to now and why this is her passion. It is so important that we identify our purpose, our passion, and that will help us, that will propel us no matter what we go through in life, to pursue that abundance that God, our Heavenly Father, created us loaded with everything to expand, everything to grow, everything to thrive. And we are going to share with you today a beautiful young lady. She has been on our program before. She shared her journey through her health challenges, and those health challenges did not deter her, but it helped her, let her realize that she still has purpose and there is a call on her life to serve in different capacities. And we will see today what other area that God has provided for her, and she's walking in her purpose, serving humanity in different capacities. Today you're going to hear from her. This is just a little synopsis, but you're going to hear from her journey from then to now. And it's none other than Heather Marie Carr McCoy. She will be giving us a lot of information as to why serve, how to serve, and why continue to serve. Hi, Heather.
Hi,
It's
Miriam.
so
How
good
are
to
you?
have you.
Hello, listeners. How are you today? Hope you're having a wonderful start to your week. I think spring is finally springing a bit, so it's not so
Yes.
cold today. So that's good. But thanks again, Miriam, for inviting me. It's always a pleasure being here with you. And this is a very intriguing topic that you have chosen for discussion. I hope I do it justice.
You definitely will on your perspective. So I'm going to allow you to share what you have, and then we'll jump in and ask questions.
Okay. So my the company in which I'm one of the directors is Partners Heart and Health. It's a cardiovascular facility. We serve the Jamaican population in Kingston, Jamaica, and it's really we deal with everything to do with your heart. So from hypertension to heart disease, atrial fibrillation, which is a very topical issue right now, we deal with all of that in our facility. We go from the diagnostic, so you come in, you can get a consultation, you can do your ECGs, echoes, whatever sort of diagnostic test you need to have done can be done. If we find there's further interventional necessary, you can also do that. We actually have what is called a catheterization lab, or a cath lab for short, where we do procedures like angiograms and stenting. A lot of you would have heard about that because it's something that is done quite regularly in the States. But there was a time in Jamaica when these procedures were not available. We were, when we opened, we were the second lab, or the second operational lab in Jamaica at the time, because the lab at the University Hospital was down. So it was a very interesting time to be open. And believe me, it was quite a challenge. As you know, if you watch the last time I was a guest on this program, I started my journey in retail. So I spent a very long time doing different stages of retail, from being a sales rep, a cashier, and moved up the ranks until I was a regional manager. And at sometimes you just feel burnt out. You feel like what you're currently doing isn't challenging you enough. And I think I was at that stage. And so when the opportunity came to join a group of cardiologists who wanted to start their own facility, I jumped at it. They needed an administrator to balance out the medical part of the team, and I thought it was a great opportunity. It was a great risk too. I'm not usually a great risk taker. I have to balance things and know the consequences and know my exit. Because at the time, I had two youngish girls. One was just about to start college, and the other one was still in high school. You don't take financial risks with your family like that. And as I said, it was very new. But I felt like I was up to the challenge, and I liked the opportunity to learn something new. I mean, being in retail, I've seen it all, done it all, and I felt like I had peaked and there was just nothing more for me in that field. And so I agreed to join them. But before I jumped in and before I left my old job, I actually started a course in health administration. So I'll start here by saying a lot of us want to do our own thing. And we're living in a time when there are so many opportunities if you look for it. But one thing that you have to do is to make sure that you're prepared. Yeah, I knew administration. I did business administration as my first diploma ever in a tertiary institution, and went on to do a master's in business administration, but I didn't know anything about health administration. And I didn't want to let myself down. I didn't want to let my team down. And so I signed up. I invested in myself and did this course in health administration. I'm just saying that you need to be prepared. If it is you want to open a shop that operates a nail shop, you have to learn how to do nails. You can't just go in blindly, because you'll have a gap in your knowledge, and people will take advantage of that. So make sure whatever you're going into, you're prepared for it. So that's a little bit of how I started there. We had to renovate the entire building. So after looking around for a while, we actually found a space that suited us at the Medical Associates Hospital. It's a private hospital in Kingston. Those of you from Jamaica would be quite familiar with it. It's in a prime location in Halfway Tree Road. Um, and they had a floor, an entire floor. Let me tell you, all the time I have to talk about God and how He intervenes in places where you don't expect Him to. Now, who has a hospital with a third floor that is not being utilized properly, and is able to say to a group of three doctors and this administrator that, yeah, we'll allow you to rent this floor, but you have a lot of work to do? That didn't deter us. We got the quotes what we needed. And the good thing is they allowed us to renovate the entire floor into what we needed it to be. And so we're able to modernize it a lot, make small, narrow spaces into wide, open offices, and so on. So it was great. It was just an unexpected blessing that we just could not have anticipated. Um, but yeah, that's how it started. We started with our two doctors, two cardiologists, working part time. Eventually, we hired a staff physician, a general practitioner, who could see patients, during the times when the doctors were not able to be there full time. Remember, I told you it's brand new, so people can't just leave their
Mm-hmm.
jobs to come into this great big uncertainty. Um, I don't know. I took the risk. I felt like there was a calling for me to do this. I felt inspired to do it. I felt passionate about doing it. And so I was brave and I left my job. I gave my notice, I gave a month's notice and stayed on for 2 additional months to help them get settled, and then I joined the team. Yep. But it was, I think one of the things that captured my attention was this ability to build something from scratch. To have that input to mold an organization, though, based on all the experience I had from where I was coming. Because as a regional manager, you did a bit of HR, a bit of finance, lots of operation, lots of sales. And imagine getting an opportunity to have a place for yourself where you can actually, put in place all the things that you have learned, all the things that you think would make an organization thrive and be successful. So that was very engaging for me.
Powerful, powerful, powerful.
But let me just go a little bit, touch a little bit on the topic that we're doing today, which is abundance in service. And one of the first things that I want to do is to just look at what abundance is when you look at it in a professional sense. A lot of people define abundance as having a lot of money. Your bank account look fat, you drive a nice car and all of that. And while it may be a part of being successful and part of your abundance, sometimes it doesn't manifest that way. It is important though that whatever you're doing, it is enough to take care of your day-to-day needs. So you may not be wealthy, but you must be in a position that you're able to take care of yourself, take care of your family. You must be able to enjoy your life, because you can't say that you're abundant in service and yet you're struggling with your health. It doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. Now, don't get me wrong, but you have to define what abundance is going to be for you. um, I saw a definition today that I liked. I'm going to share a little bit with you. Abundance is more than financial wealth. It involves a life filled with love, health, and happiness. Very brief, very easy to remember. So it's a combination of things that's going to make your life abundant. A big part of being abundant in service is being able to serve in your capacity as a business owner, as a manager, as a coach, as a teacher, because you're bringing people into a space and you want them to give a certain level of service. You may have to teach them. In the first years of creating this new organization, it involved a lot of teaching. I was new to medicine, even though I had done the administration degree, and I had done, in my former job, I had done a lot of administration or administrative work. Medicine was different. I had to learn about the procedures. I had to learn. It was a different mindset than being in retail. Let me just tell you. You are now in a space where you have to be empathetic. You have to be compassionate. But at the same time, you have to be, I'm going to use the word strong, because you have to balance your business. It's not a charity. It's not a nonprofit. You're expected to serve all the people involved in your organization, your employees, your investors, your stakeholders, and yourself. It means then that you have to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you are generating. enough income from your business to cover all of these responsibilities. Mind you, you may put yourself last to begin with, meaning that you make sure that the other people are taken care of before yourself. And that is to start because we understand that it's the first time and we're building up our abundance. But you must be in a space where eventually you're able to take care of yourself, as well as other people who you're responsible for, right? And so, in that capacity as a teacher and so on, you may find that you have to utilize certain skills that or learn skills that you never needed before, right? I had to learn about cardiology. I had to be able to speak intelligently about this topic that was unfamiliar to me, but I had to learn, right? So it took a lot of reading and a lot of watching YouTube videos, interacting with the doctors and learning, and then, teaching my team because my team also had to be able to understand certain phrases, understand when somebody's asking about an echocardiogram, to know the difference between an echocardiogram and an electrocardiogram, because they're booking these processes. So you have to know what you're saying, what you're booking the patient for, and the cost of each one, because the cost is different. And you also have to be in a position, if a patient or anybody asks you, you have to be able to speak intelligently and explain what these things are. You may not be a doctor and you may give the information in a layman's term, but at least you have to know what you're talking about and do it intelligently. Okay? So part of creating this abundance in service is mentoring and teaching your team, right? Part of that is what will keep your passion going because there's a certain fulfillment you get from sharing your knowledge and your experience with others. And also as you're learning together and you're creating these milestones, it's exciting. So celebrate the wins, celebrate the fact when it goes from having 5 customers in a day to when it's 10 to when it's 20 to when it's 30. Part of that is just going to keep you inspired and keep you motivated to do what you do because you have to know what rewards and what the goals are that you're looking for in your business. That's very important. Miriam, do I keep going or you have questions for me?
Let me see if there are any questions. This is powerful. Um, you spoke about serving in retail for so many years, and that knowledge and the passion of retail, though you felt burnt out because you were actually doing mundane because you have been in there for so long and you're just going through the
Exactly.
motions. Now you need something that will
Yes.
excite you
Yes.
more, correct? It's like that part of the brain, you are just doing it. It's like
Hmm.
driving. You already learned how to drive. And so every single day, it's the same thing, though
Right.
there's no challenge. So now God has opened up the door to challenge you so you can show up with that abundance that you were created
That's right.
to work with. That's powerful. Are you still serving in that capacity at the medical associate, and how many people do you serve per day or per week? And saying you meaning
Sure.
your team.
On average, so we are located at the Medical Associates Hospital on the second floor. We started out in 2018 with the name Partners Interventional Center of Jamaica. Every time I say it, I have to take a deep breath. And for that very reason, yes,
Say it
yeah,
slowly,
for that very
slowly.
reason, though, we
Say it
changed the
slowly.
name in 2023 to Partners Heart and Health. Short and sweet, easy to remember. It tells you exactly what we do. So our name currently is Partners Heart and Health. Okay. And as I shared with you, we started from seeing 5 patients in a day. I think on average we see maybe about 30 patients, sometimes more. because depending on how many doctors we have on a day, it may be that each doctor is seeing as much as 15, 20 patients. And some doctors only come in for half of the day and that sort of thing. One of the major part of our business is doing the interventional procedures, like the angiograms, the stenting. We also do things like ASD closure, PFO closures. Um, we treat atrial fibrillation, as I mentioned. So we do electrophysiology, we do ablation, we do cryoablation. One is using heat, the other is doing.
Oh,
So I'm not going to go into the details because you're going to be
that's
hearing
not,
it from.
that's that sounds like that sounds like a game. You do this,
Yes.
you do that. So you started from the first two procedures. I know you can go into the logistics, but you said certain acronyms. So as accountants and
That's
other
like your
laymen,
lingo when you're
because
telling us things
we
and we don't
are
know what it means. Receivables and
that's
payables
it.
and all of those things.
Uh-huh.
um, yeah.
And your AGI.
So an ECG, or in Europe and some places in the US, they call it EKG. It's the same thing. It's an
Okay.
electrocardiogram. And what it is it's one of those quick and very informative procedures that you do to see how your heart is doing. So it's putting leads. Most people would have done it once you go into a hospital setting. You put on 6 to 8 leads all over your body, and it measures your heartbeat,
Mm-hmm.
and it can see how your heart. Uh, People are familiar with this signal where it looks like kind of a up and down kind of thing, like the squiggly line.
Yes,
Yes,
the
like a
graph.
graph. So that is showing how your heart is beating. And it can, the a cardiologist can look at it and say, tell if there's a problem with your heart. And that will let them know if they need to do any additional procedures. So the ECG or the EKG is one of the most basic diagnostics that we use in cardiology. In fact, if you come as a new patient, it's mandatory that you do an ECG because you come into our cardiologist, we want to see what's going on with your heart. So it's the first thing that we're going to ask you to do as part of your consultation. And the echocardiogram, I always think that you do the ECG first and the echo is the next step. The echocardiogram is like it's people call it a sonogram sometimes, and it takes a picture
Okay.
now of the heart. So it's not just a graph that you're seeing, you're actually seeing an image of the heart. Doctors use it a lot to see how your blood is flowing because they can see that and they can take measurements. So sometimes they use it to determine if your heart is enlarged, if you have a leaky valve, if you have a hole in the heart. They're able to tell all of that from looking at the echocardiogram. I don't do those technicalities, by the way. I can only tell you what it is for, but I don't do that. I had the opportunity to learn at one point, and I'm like, I don't think so. That's not my forte at all. I'll do the paperwork.
But it is so important that although you are not the doctor or the person who have the learning, the
Hmm.
physical aspect, you're able to identify these particulars so you can educate your client before
Yes.
intake or
Yeah.
this that sort. So that's great. And being in this area, how what are some of the challenges you face in delivering exceptional
Oh
service?
boy, I'll tell you. In Jamaica, maybe about 30 to 40%, if we're lucky, of the population has insurance. And because, or has good insurance. And because of that, finances are always a challenge. So once you go from a basic consultation or a basic diagnostic test, there's a financial issue. And that is one of our biggest challenges. And we often talk about it. It's something that we're seriously looking at sometime in the future to have some sort of a foundation where we can help people. Because it's just one of the mysteries of life. The people who are most critically ill are sometimes the ones who don't have the money to put towards doing these procedures. And it is really, really heartbreaking, you know. And we do help can, to treat them medically sometimes to prevent them from from having this large expense. Um, but sometimes they just need it. And there are facilities in Jamaica. So the Ministry of Health has what they have a fund that can help people who are destitute. That is what it is meant for, people who really can't afford it. But of course, they will look at other persons who may have insurance but have difficulty coming up with some of the funds, and they will assist them. You also have different foundations. Some of the insurance companies do have foundations and try to help their clients where they can. But that is the most limiting factor, I think. We don't have a challenge offering procedures. Um, a part of our abundance, I'll tell you, is that because of the relationship and the networking that our doctors have, and also the reputation that our little facility has built up, our brand, we get a lot of help from doctors outside of Jamaica. Some of the procedures that we're doing, we have doctors supporting us from Puerto Rico, from Colombia, from the States, who come to Jamaica to assist us with doing those cases. So um, that's another blessing that we have, another part of our abundance, where we're able to, first of all, be able to afford the equipment and the supplies necessary to do these procedures, as well as to have expertise or people who are willing to support us by coming to Jamaica to do these procedures. So, one of the things we have been able to do, for instance, is something called transaortic. I can never remember the full name. Most people know it as TAVI, but it's a transaortic valve replacement. That's what it is. Or yes, TAVI.
Abby.
It's either a replacement or an insertion. So the first one you do is an insertion, and then later on you may have to do a replacement. So it's putting in a valve where a valve is weak or leaky, and you have to replace it with an artificial valve. That's the short term, but the short answer to doing it. TAVI became very popular in the States maybe about 8 or so years ago, maybe less. It was still a new procedure, maybe in 2019 or so, but it has gotten very popular. So it's done maybe on a daily basis in the States. For us, because of the affordability or the lack of affordability of our clientele, we don't do it that often because we try and make sure we have at least 2 cases to make it worth the while of these visiting physicians when they come. You know, um, I think another challenge that we face is not having a lot of government support. Simple things like, nothing is manufactured in Jamaica. All our supplies are purchased overseas. And even to be able
Wow.
to give us some concessions for importing these products that are used in these medical facilities is not quite forthcoming. A lot of times we will clear something this month. When we go to clear it again next month, something has changed, and you just have to either end up paying more, or they tell you that you can't get it, you need a permit. It's just always a revolving door. And that's very frustrating. So I think those two might be our most substantial challenge at this time.
So you want to offer service in one sense, you want to offer service, but the inability of getting
Mhm.
the items that is
Or
needed
getting
for
it at a
service.
reasonable
The
rate, because
yeah.
affordability is already an issue. So if we're able to get some concessions on importing it or clearing the items, then we'd be able to pass those on to our patients. So yeah, money. is our greatest challenge.
money.
Yeah.
As, as you alluded to earlier regarding looking at ideas where you can start a foundation. Now that's a great philanthropic um, mindset, because you want your given service, uh, because one thing I know, as you rightly talk about, making sure that you're
Hmm.
balancing the books, because return on investment, that's what
It's going to keep you going.
uh
Yes.
profit, yeah,
Here
a
the
profit
accountant now.
business does. Now, um how do you ensure a positive experience for your patients, and what role does that play in the overall abundance you
You mean the
perceive in your
financial aspect
business?
and how it plays into giving good service? No?
Yes, how do you ensure a positive experience with your
So,
patient? Maybe I shouldn't
yeah.
double barrel the
So,
questions.
one of the things that is very important is anticipating the needs of your patient. Um, a lot of times people make fun of Jamaicans and how we perceive customer service. I'm sure you've all seen the memes. You see them on Instagram and Twitter, with people, especially going to a Jamaican restaurant and asking for, "Do you have any ackee? Do you have any oxtail?" And just the manner in which the response is given. We have to, as business owners, entrepreneurs, managers, even if you don't own your own business, you have to think about, first of all, your brand and what you want to be known for, right? Once you sort out what you want your brand or your reputation to be, then it's easy to pass on those lessons to your other team members, right? One of the most important things, of course, is to be pleasant. There's nobody in the world who's going to be grinning all the time. If you see somebody and they're always smiling, we're all going to think that they have mental issues. Not to be offensive, but nobody can be that happy all the time. So all we ask is that at least you look approachable and pleasant. Okay? Even if you're on the phone, one of the things that you have to do is try and even force the smile. That's part of faking it. Force the smile because it translates even over the phone. And if you don't believe me,
Mm-hmm.
have you ever answered the phone and just by the way, or you're talking to your good friend on the phone, and just the way they answer it, you pick up that something is wrong? You're not smiling.
Yeah.
And the phone has a microphone in it, so you think it's not picking up things, especially these smartphones that are smarter than us. It picks up nuances in your
Very
voice,
smart.
and so people can tell if you are in a good mood, if you're approachable, and worse, if they don't know you. You have to make sure that your voice and the tone of your voice comes across as being welcoming, and that's a big thing. That's a first step in customer service, you know, especially the persons who answer the phone and who work at the front desk. You have to give the appearance of being pleasant and competent. You have to show
Mm-hmm.
empathy, and particularly in a medical facility, you have to be alert. You have to be compassionate. Sometimes when people are ill, it doesn't translate the way that you think it should. So they're not necessarily coming looking puny. They're very combative. They're very argumentative. They're in pain and they don't know how to handle it. So it comes across as they're very angry, very cross, and they're looking for an argument, right?
Hmm.
You have to be professional enough to not respond in kind. You have to remember that of the two of you, you're the professional. Sometimes you just have to
Mm-hmm.
try and move them away. If it's a public space, like at your front desk, your reception area, try and move them maybe down the hall, maybe into your lunchroom, maybe into an empty office, and allow them to vent. You know, it may
Hmm.
mean offering them a seat. Can I offer you a cool drink? I used to keep chocolate on my desk. And when people are getting upset, I say, can I offer you something sweet? And when I take out the chocolate, most times it's an icebreaker. Because, first of all, the question stops them dead. You're going to offer me something sweet, woman, and I'm upset. So that alone gives them pause. When I take out the little Hershey's chocolate, I get a really, and it kind of breaks, it kind of helps to break the ice. It may not, that technique may not work for you, but find something that works. Because even if it's not in medicine, even if you're a hairdresser, you're gonna have that client that's having a bad day that's gonna come and want to take it out on you. And you can't do the back and forth and the arguing with your clients. You have to be the professional one. I mentioned it before that your staff has to be well trained, they have to be educated, and you can't be the only one teaching. So you have to create a learning environment where they're encouraged to do their own research, where they're encouraged to look up things. So you make them inquisitive, make them curious, so that if they come across a term that they don't understand or a procedure that they don't understand, that without you prompting, they quick and look it up on YouTube. And the next time you ask them, what is cryoablation? They can't tell you. They can't, they're not telling you in a medical sort of way, but they can at least give you the layman's version of what this procedure is.
What is cryoablation?
Cryoablation, so your heart has electrical functions. And sometimes when it's not pumping well, it's due to an electrical issue. So I spoke about atrial fibrillation. People tell that them feel them heart flutter, or in Jamaica we say flutter, or you feel like it skip a beat or two. That's what atrial fibrillation is. It can get so bad that it skips, and the person may feel faint, tired. They may black out. They faint, what we call syncope. I'm showing off now, sorry. But that's one of the terms that simply means that the person blacks out. So that's very dangerous, because sometimes the injury that is caused is that you fall and you hit your head. So it's very important
Yeah.
that if you have any of these symptoms, the tiredness, the fatigue, um, just this feeling that the palpitations and your heart feel funny and you literally feel like sometimes it stop or it slow down. Those are things that need to be checked out. But because there are procedures, there's medicine, medication, but the best fix for it is doing what you call cryoablation therapy, which is going in and fixing that electrical, the wiring, the bad wiring in your heart, using, as I said, cold. So it's like freezing it and fixing it, re engineering it so that you no longer have this palpitation or this tiredness and so on. And it's usually done by an electrophysiologist, or what we call an EP doctor. And Jamaica actually has the only female EP doctor in the Caribbean. And she works
Electrophysicist.
electrophysiologist, physiologist, yes.
Electrophysiologist. And
Has the
Jamaica has
only
the
female in
only
the Caribbean.
female in the Caribbean.
And she works at Partners.
And it's in
She
and
works
it's
at
at
Partners
your
Heart and Health.
and
She
she's
has a
working
private practice, but she works with us.
partners.
Yeah.
Wow. That's abundance in service in so many
Yes.
different ways. Your journey is one of excitement and one of amusement, one of I'm trying to find the adjectives
Lots
that
of
will just
challenges. Sometimes there is frustration. Sometimes there is anger. Sometimes there is foreboding, like, especially for the financial aspects. When you are not able to treat a patient, when you're not able to, because outside of helping them with their applications to these foundations, we do try our best, but you are you have other obligations too. You can't do every patient. You can't give a discount to every patient, or else you're gonna run your business into the ground. The flip side of
Right.
that is having, worked with a patient and given them certain leeway, and then the person goes away, is treated, goes away, and they don't honor their part of their agreement, and you're left trying to follow up with this
Hmm.
patient to collect a balance. You know, that's hard. That's frustration, and it sometimes is depressing. Yeah,
So you take so you take care of them and set up
yeah.
a payment plan, which sometimes that, and
They
then they
the
did not
first
honor
one, and
their
then they
part of
change their
it.
number. They don't answer the phone. They tell you about things that you don't want to hear, that you can't respond to. They threaten you with legal action. It's very frustrating. That part of it is the downside of your business, especially when you have gone out of your way to help somebody, and that's a treatment that you get. But you just keep going. You put measures in place to try and mitigate it, and you just do the best that you can, you know. Lots of prayer over that one. But
Abundance
yeah.
seems,
Another frustration or frustrating part of it is managing people is never easy. And sometimes when you think you have finally trained your team to a certain point, and you can sort of, everybody's trained and we're good to go. And then your nurse gets an offer to work in the US or in England or some other country, and she leaves after you've spent the last 2, 3 years training her to be a cardiac nurse. So she takes all that knowledge
hmm,
and she leaves. Or it may be the receptionist that you've finally gotten to the space where everything clicks. She knows the patients by name. People love her. They come and they ask for her by name. And then she's like, oh, I have a better opportunity. And she leaves, you know. But that's part of life. And, you get you're able to give other people opportunities, and you just have to keep going.
but I see the flip side to what you're saying. You, because of your way of serving with abundance, those persons, they are so they others see them
Hmm.
very lucrative, and so you have trained, you have nurtured someone who have now transitioned to making themselves better. So I see the expansion of your
Yeah,
service, your being serving abundantly.
yeah.
That's
But
amazing.
part of being a business leader is to accept that you can't hold on to people like that. Um, and even if you might train them and yes, they move on, you still have to train them. You still have to give your best. When somebody leaves your organization, it must be better than the way that they came. And that's one of the things that you must always set as your goal. Nobody's going to stay with you forever. You're the only one that's going to be that dedicated to your business, that loyal to it, right? Other people are going to take the opportunities that you offer and maybe move on. Some after a year, some after 5, some after 10. But you have to prepare yourself for that. But you can't hold back on training and on teaching them and providing opportunities for learning and encouraging them to invest in their learning, even though you know that eventually they may leave your organization. Your goal is not to make them stay, but to make sure that when they move on, people say, where you used to work before you come here? What was your position before? They must move on to better things. And
Wonderful.
that's your crown.
Awesome.
That's your abundance.
Awesome. Awesome. Let me jump to the chat because let me see if there are questions there. Um, North Star Limousine says, how difficult was it for you to make the transition, not knowing what the future holds for this new startup?
it wasn't, it was difficult, but yet it wasn't. Part of the, when it became difficult was when we started doing the renovation and we ran out of money. We ran out of money. Um, so before we actually undertook, the brick and mortar building, what we were doing was selling equipment. So we used to sell the
Mm-hmm.
stents and other equipment, and save up the money because we weren't paying rent or anything. We weren't paying any employees, so we saved up that money over a 2-year period. So when we started the renovation, we did it mostly out of pocket. But we never anticipated that JPS was going to charge us one whole heap of zeros behind a one to put in a special meter for the
Ooh.
equipment because you had to have your own meter, a special meter that can give you 220 volt
Mm-hmm.
and whatever voltage into your facility to run this lovely cat machine that I was telling you about. And that was when at one point, I said, did I do something wrong? Did I make the wrong decision? Because working for somebody and getting your salary every week is always more comfortable than trying to earn your bread by yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but I wouldn't say, except for those moments when it was difficult and you wondered what if, it was an easy transition for me because I was so done with my previous job. I really believe that I had peaked. I had served 10 years in the same role, and all it meant was rotating to different parts of the island. So 1 year I was managing part of Kingston and St. Thomas and whatever. The next time I was doing Montego Bay, South Black River. The next time I was doing some corporate area stores, so been there, done that. I even helped them to open a new chain of stores. And that became exciting for a while because every time it's your newest baby, and it's exciting to see it, go from this little store space into making it into a whole store. And you get to choose the furniture that you want in the store and you get to choose your staff. But then, yeah, it's settled now and everybody knows that it just got boring. So I think I was at a stage in my life where I needed the change. I was ready for it. I knew the goals that I wanted. I was passionate about wanting to build something from scratch for myself. I had done it for years for this other company. I wanted to see what it was like for myself. And
Mm-hmm.
that mindset made it easy for me to switch from retail into almost the unknown.
Powerful. Let me see if there's any other question. That's powerful. Let's see. Any other question? Any other question out there? Can the doctors have all the necessary resources to do surgery? There are they have Can the doctors have all the necessary resources to do surgery? There are they or they have to send you overseas?
So remember, I have a niche. I work in a cardiovascular facility. Um, for the most part, for those services that we offer, I can say we do them and do them very well. In other sectors, it may not be that way. And maybe for more advanced procedures, we don't try and do them in our facility. So once a patient, let me tell you some medical terms. Sometimes when we're doing stenting, so stenting is removing blockages from your blood vessels.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's so many. So you'll hardly find somebody who's going to leave your facility with 6, 7, 8 stents. Um, if they need surgery, whether it's bypass surgery or, they may have what you call cabbage, where they need to do a surgery that is not offered at our facility. So we transfer them to where that surgery can be done. Usually it's going to be the University Hospital of the West Indies because they have an ICU and they have very well trained consultants to do these type of surgeries. Will they have all the equipment? Sometimes they don't. I mentioned the issue with, Jamaica doesn't make anything. We don't manufacture these things and they have to be purchased from overseas. And from time to time, there will be a shortfall because you place the order. It may be in the island, but you have difficulty clearing it, or it
Right.
takes some time for you to, it's coming from India or China or somewhere in Europe, and you have to wait for it to get to the island. So sometimes persons, rather than wait, they will opt to go overseas. Sometimes people choose to go overseas because the service may no longer be offered in Jamaica because they don't have maybe the technology, the equipment, maybe the knowledge. So maybe the doctor that used to do it retired and there's nobody else doing it. Sometimes you can do the surgery, but you don't have enough support for the aftercare of the patient. So, for instance, we don't do heart transplants in Jamaica. Not that it can't be done. We have physicians there that can do it. We have cardiothoracic surgeons that can do it, but we don't have the backup to support it.
Okay.
Yeah. So after you do the heart, the transplant, there's a lot that goes into the care of the patient. And we
Right.
may not have that kind of support to do that, whether it is the equipment needed in the ICU, the types of medication, or just as I said, the knowledge, the trained nurses to be able to carry out the aftercare. So there are different reasons. And some people, that's what their insurance, they have insurance overseas. So it's easier for them to do it there. It's not a hardship for them. They have family in the States, so it's not like they're going into the unknown and they can afford it. So they choose to go overseas.
Got it.
But I have to tell my people in the diaspora, don't try and compare your third world Jamaica with first world countries like the United States, Canada, and the UK. These countries have been around for hundreds of years. Jamaica is 60 something.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of what we're trying to do is comparatively new. And also, we don't have the resources. Um, Countries like the UK, Canada, and so on, they are able to, their hospitals and their medical centers survive because of foundations that are not even run by the hospitals. It's
Yeah.
a separate arm of the hospital, and people donate to it. They leave money to it. Um, and there are other corporate entities that support these foundations and support the hospitals. I'm sure you've gone into a hospital and see a plaque on the wall that says this wing is dedicated to
Yes.
the Shriver family,
Mm-hmm.
meaning that they not only donated a plaque, but they donate money to keep it
Yes.
going. We don't have those things in Jamaica, so try not to do the comparison too much in your mind. We do the best that we can, and sometimes more than our best with the equipment and the facilities that we have. There's no lack of knowledge in Jamaica. All our doctors are well trained. And usually in a first world country too, in Canada, they come to the United States, they go to England, and they're trained just as well as the doctors in the States or anywhere else. What we may not have is the support, the financial support to carry out the
Mm-hmm.
craft. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of them don't come back. I challenge any of you to go to Jackson Memorial and ask your doctor, where are you from? And see if they don't tell you Jamaica.
That is so true. That is true. That is so true. And this is why we need to expand this. Viewers, I know some of you have abundance in resources, financial resource. So here is Heather with her corporation. You can donate, help her set up that foundation that she can expand, helping those who have no insurance, help those who have limited insurance and have need of the resources that she offers. Uh, Theodore King was asking, what is the name of the special cardiologist you mentioned earlier? Was it Dr. Rachel Gordon?
No, not Raquel Gordon, Dr. Claire Pascal.
Claire passed.
Yeah.
Pass.
Dr.
The
Raquel Gordon is an interventional cardiologist, one of those doctors that trained in Canada, well trained, I tell you. We have strong women in cardiology. Um, I think we have maybe about 5 or 6 women that are in cardiology now. And you know that women come with a special touch when it comes to medicine and taking care of their patients. So we're very proud of them. And we have had quite a few of them work with us at Partners Heart and Health.
Awesome. Let's see if there are any more questions. We have 3 minutes to wrap up. This is not the end of Heather, but this is just for what make you choose this profession.
So it's partly personal and partly professional. It was because I'm in administration, it was an easy transition for me to go from retail operations into hospital administration. A lot of the disciplines are very similar. The only thing different is the way that you manage furniture as opposed to managing people, because you're now dealing with patients. It's not an inanimate object, it's not a bed or a stove or anything like that. And so my mindset had to change to embrace that, and how I delivered myself. So my brand had to change. I was no longer this competitive regional manager. Um, I had to now change my approach to my job, and how I approached who are now my customers and who are now my patients and not my customers. But I chose it because it was different, it was interesting, it was intriguing. Let me tell you, I learned something new every day. And it's the variety. Today, I'm doing some financial thing. Tomorrow, I'm doing an HR thing. And, there's a lot of variety in my day. I'm doing marketing. I'm doing, I'm, so many things that make it exciting. I'm never bored. I work for hours and I don't feel tired because it's so exciting, you know. Um, there's no day I'm sitting and just doing the same thing over and over again, and that alone makes it worthwhile, made me happy that I chose this profession. And I'm always learning, always learning.
You're passionate. This is where you say you love what you do and it does not feel like work, though you have challenges, but you're loving the challenges that comes with your passion.
Yeah.
Powerful. I know there's several other questions, and I know your time and our viewers' time is very, very valuable. So, if you have one statement that you want to leave with us, or should I just take one last question? Let's see if we could take one last
One
question.
last question, then I'll give you my closing statement.
Okay. Let's see if there's any more questions. Um, I think North Star Limousine said, "How difficult was it for you to make the transition?" Oh no, we did that
We did
already.
that one.
So I think it seemed as if those were the only question. The others were comments. They're saying greetings. It's a wonderful thing you have done. So, in this closing, sharing where Heather started to where Heather is now, what is one thing you want to say to our viewers?
Mhm. When we talk about abundance in service, a lot of people don't think of your business or your profession. But I challenge you to remember, somebody's asking the name of my business. It's Partners Heart and Health. It's a cardiovascular facility located on the second floor of the Medical Associates Hospital in Kingston, Jamaica. All right. Um, One of the things that we have to remember as entrepreneurs is that, well, first of all, I was going to say that abundance in service is not just volunteering. A lot of times when we think of service, we think of volunteer work or philanthropy. It's much more than that. Your your brand as a person, as a leader, as a business owner matters a lot, um, and that is part of what will make you feel like you're abundant in the service that you're giving. When somebody is able to recognize your worth and to pay you a compliment because of the way you make them feel when you serve them, I don't think there is any better feeling than that. Whether it is that you're in the medical field or whether it is that you're in retail and you know that you have done your best and somebody appreciates it. But one of the cautionary tales that I want to leave with you is to remember that you can't serve abundantly out of an empty place. In other words, an empty cup doesn't give you anything. You have to make sure that you pour into yourself and then you
Mhm.
give from the overflow of your cup. Your business is not your only responsibility. You have your family, you have your significant other, and there are other things that you're involved in, whether it is your church, whether it is um, some other voluntary service that you give. All of those things are important and all of those deserve having your attention whenever you're doing them, right? So you have to make sure you take time to fill back up yourself, whether it is with rest, a hobby that you like, some self care, where you go and you get your hair and your nails did, or you go and you get a massage, or it is feeding your spiritual self. You know, that time that you take not just to go to church, but to really pour into your spirit. All of those things are important because you have to give from your overflow. You can't pour into others when you are empty. That is a recipe for total destruction and annihilation.
Mhm.
Just very quickly, Dr. Elliott, who is the managing director of Partners Heart and Health, he just joined us. So he just wanted to spend 5 minutes in case anybody had any questions for him. Um, I told him to take care of all the medical things because I don't know it the way he does. I don't know if he's still on. Are
Dr.
you seeing
Elliott,
him?
are you
Yeah.
still on? And we will definitely have Dr. Elliott back because I know there are people who will want to ask more questions other than on the surface that Heather dealt with today. So Doc, if you're on, let them just see your face. So
He says he's on, but I'm not seeing him. So let me,
not seeing him either.
he says he's here. It's Dr. Victor Elliott. Let me quickly tell you about Dr. Victor Elliott while we try and find him.
Okay.
Dr. Victor Elliott is a very well known interventional cardiologist in Jamaica. Um, when we checked the other day, he had done over 5,000 procedures. I think it's more. I think he's being modest. But He is well known in Jamaica for his service, or patients enjoy coming to him. He's one of those unique doctors that will give you his phone number. And when you call him at 11 o'clock and say, Doc, I feel like my chest is hurting me, that he'll actually
Mm-hmm.
take the call. I really admire him, not only in a professional sense, but just the way that he deals with his patient. I've never heard him raise his voice to a patient. Oh, let me stop because now he's going to start blushing. Hi, Dr. Elliot. But I've never heard him raise his
Hello.
voice to a
Hi,
patient.
Dr. Elliot.
I'm going to give him his time
She's
so that
talking
he
about
can,
you.
yes.
Welcome to Mindset Monday. It's good to have you, and we hear so much about you. And she's giving you 5 minutes, but this is just 5 minutes of drinking a little water, and we're gonna have you back for you to share more about abundance in service. So it's good to see you, good to have you, and to know that you have helped to expand my friend, my friend for years into a different spectrum. And I'm learning so much more about what you have done to help her to operate in this space. Welcome.
Well, thank you. You can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm sorry I'm so late, but I was delayed because of a patient.
See,
Um,
abundance in service.
uh, you mentioned that I have done so much for Heather. I would say it's more Heather has done so much for me, but that's another story. um, you tell me where to begin. I am not sure.
Well, you're just gonna share 5 minutes of who you are, and we're gonna have you back to for
Okay.
your own segment. So we'll have the time to love on you more. So you could just share 5 minutes of who you are, and then our guests will know that you'll be coming back for 1 hour with them.
Okay. Well, I am Dr. Elliot, as you heard, Victor Elliot. I'm a cardiologist, specifically who you call an interventional cardiologist and managing director of um, Partners Interventional Center, same place that Heather McKoy works, and where she's the business director. And if you talk about abundance in service, let me just therefore spend a minute just saying why Partners Heart and Health was even started. And it really just came out of wanting to provide what I would say is adequate, proper cardiac care for the patients who I was serving here in Jamaica. There was a lot of shortcomings in the facilities that existed, and and something needed to be done. And it took us maybe about 3 years, 2 to 3 years to actually get it done the way that we now have it. Because we tried different ways, different approaches, and finally the gateway opened for us to be where we are, to start the service bigger than what we thought we were initially going into. And the drive is really just to provide the best cardiac care for the patients. From I consider my people in Jamaica.
Well, I'm gonna go Jamaica. Big up. So them say big up, right? Well, that's powerful for an introduction for you, and we'll definitely have you back to share much more that our people can know that someone people are there passionate about abundance in serving their people and making sure that they get the help they need to maintain their health. Thank you so much for being with us, and we'll be having you for your own segment very soon.
Okay.
And as I close, don't go. Viewers, thank you so much for sharing with us. This is just the tip of the iceberg, and Dr. Elliot and Heather and others will be coming back to share in these months, because this entire quarter will be abundance in service. Thank you for sharing your time with us, and we're happy you're here. Don't forget to hit notification all and share with others that they will be able to see this wonderful information and get to know and get the service for their family and friends that Heather and her company, uh, Heart
Partners, Heart, and Health.
Partners Heart and Health offers. Once again, thank you for another episode of Mindset Monday.
Thank you, Miriam. Bye, everybody.